So here's the painting that we are going to finish up today. Okay, or at least get a start on finishing up. This is my palette, so I'll go over real quick my palette and colors. So welcome to my Treehouse Studios, and my name is Linda Riesenberg Fisler, and if you're joining me live, you already knew that, but I'm going to be putting this out on YouTube and on my website, lindafisler.com, for everyone to see. So, starting off with my palette. I usually start with just my limited palette, which is typically ultramarine blue, alizarin crimson, and cadmium yellow. This is a titanium white, number 2. These are all Michael Harding paints. And then I added to that because I knew where I was going to be working. I wanted to kind of change up some colors a little bit. So this is cobalt teal. This is terra vert. This is viridian. This is Venetian red, and that's the one that I said I don't use very often on my palette, and has very strong pigment in it. And I'll go talk about where I used that. This is French ochre, and this is burnt umber. These two colors were leftover palette. This is where I do my mixing on my palette. And these two colors and these 3 colors, what I do is I take white and I pull up as much palette off of this mixing area as I can. Not that I don't care if it gets mixed into the other mixtures, because that kind of brings a harmony to the painting. But I love pulling off as much pigment as I can because Michael's paints have so much pigment in it. So I reserve kind of my lightest value colors here are basically from this palette mixing area. So it has a little bit of everything in it, and it will help to tie the painting together as well. So these browns and this brown, this really dark brown, were all made with this Venetian red, and it overpowered it while I was mixing it because I'm not used to using that paint. But that has a lot of pigment in it, and it's really a lot of fun to use. So, so what else? We got a green that I'm going to use up in the evergreen trees. It's a little bit lighter in color, but not in value of my evergreen trees. And there's a blue-purple, and the 2 browns, and a real light green that I'll use in the foreground. And then these I'll probably use on the path and the stems of the plants. And so I have not mixed up any of the flowers that I'm going to put in there or anything like that. I'm going to hold this for a second before we go into me putting it up and start painting. So this is where we stopped the last time that I did a video. So that green I showed you on my palette is going to go into this area and pull out that darkness there. Let's see if I can adjust this light overhead so that it doesn't glare off of there. I think that works. Okay. And then this is Mount Mitchell behind. I'm really done in this part of the painting. I'm all going to be working in the foreground today, and these were kind of grasses and wildflowers and stuff. And then this is, if you've been up to Mount Craig, this is actually a rock, but the more I thought about it, the more I thought, well, you know, that's not going to be very attractive. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to work in a path, kind of an S-shaped path, so that you can walk along it and then end up in the circular part of the composition, walking along the path to get there. So and this is what, you know, we call artistic license, if you will. I'm changing it because I want it to be something where I lead the painter through. So I'm taking artistic license. I'm not going to put this stone that's here and this black and white one. It's this area right here that I used for values. It's the reference. And, you know, I just don't think it adds all that much to the painting. So I'm going to just kind of wing it, so they say, and put in a path. And there's kind of a natural path that kind of, you know, goes through here and down. So just a little meandering, not a very big thing. It's not going to take over the painting, because what I want people to be in is this area here. And then I'll probably at some point come back and play with my clouds some evening. So lots still to do on the painting. My students, unfortunately, I got some students, but they've all shows you how you need to be. I'm going to set my phone up here, so hang on. I know it's kind of jerking, so, and you get to see my wrist, but we're almost done here. Hold on. There we go. That should work. So anyway, I usually am teaching at this point, but my students that come to my treehouse studio have been exposed to coronavirus. And since my studio's in my house, I said, I think we need to wait and see what happens. So welcome to the world of 2020 and 2021, where the virus is still having a role in what we're doing. So, okay, so I'm going to show you the tube of Michael paints, just because I always do that for Michael, and just so that you can, again, see what is on my palette. So this is the Michael Harding Paints Titanium White 2, and that is number 102, Series 1. Then we have the Ultramarine Blue, also Michael Harding, number 113, Series 1. Hi, Adrian. I'll get over the boring stuff here in a second. Then I have Michael Harding's Alizarin Crimson, number 302, Series 3. These are for all the painters out there who always ask me, what are you using? Michael Harding Cadmium Yellow, number 402, Series 4. Okay. Oh, and I dropped that right in the Ultramarine. I'm going to wipe that off this tube because this will get everywhere. Okay. Then we have the Cobalt Teal, number 513, Series 5. I love that color. That's probably my favorite color of Michael's. Besides lapis. I love the lapis too, but we're not using the lapis today. Terra Vert, number 115, Series 1. Viridian, number 511, Series 5. Ultramarine, or I'm sorry, French Yellow Ochre, number 133, Series 1. Venetian Red, number 122, Series 1. And finally, Michael Harding's Burnt Umber, number 126, Series 1. Okay. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a small brush, and I want to plan out where I want that walking path to go. I'm going to do that with one of my darkest colors. And I'm not going to worry too much about exact placement. I'll come back and work it in. Here in a second with some real color, because this to me is like one of the most important things that we need to get established first. Still kind of glaring. Those things you fight in your studio. Hi, Angela. Thank you. I love that you love this painting. So, Happy New Year to you. So I was just telling the others that are here, I'm going to put in a little path here, even though that's not really there. I was trying to messing with the light so you can kind of see what I'm doing. Hi, Jim. Happy New Year. I think I'm going to leave it right there. Hopefully you guys can see what I'm up to. I'm just trying to get a feel for that path that I want to put in here. And then I'm going to switch to palette knife. Hi, John Grosser. How are you? I don't know if you guys have ever figured out, you and your brother, if you've ever figured out that you're related to my son-in-law, Brian, or not. I think he's in touch with you. I can't remember what he told me, if you guys really are related or not. So, kind of interesting. Small world. All right. Alright, so now I'm going to switch over to my palette knives. So I've got what I want in there. I'm going to put the rest of that path in just so I have it sitting down, and then I will come back and work on the grasses and so forth. So, palette knife. Where's my, there it is. Okay. I'm going to start with this guy. Just gonna lay him in. This was a very cloudy day when I was hiking from Mount Mitchell to Mount Craig, which is on Mount Craig looking back at Mount Mitchell on the Blue Ridge Parkway. Or I should say just off the Blue Ridge Parkway, actually. Any questions, be sure to ask. Dick. I was talking with Joanna earlier. Hope you guys are doing okay in New York. Hope your dad's doing well. Hope you guys had a nice New Year's. So, talked to you the other day briefly about your movie that you're working on. So exciting. I hope to hear some good news about that soon. If you guys want to hear a little bit more about it, there's an art chat that I did with Dick about movie production, and he talks about the Dinner Set Gang, which is a movie that he's working on, trying to get it from what I guess it's pre-production, Dick, into production. So that development area, I guess, is what we're calling it. But anyway, if you want to hear about how movies are made and all that good stuff, tune into that art chat. And also want to let folks know that we have a private, closed community that Dick and Joanna are a part of. Joanna is a Broadway dancer, actually, and is teaching really cool stuff to the kids in New York, at least before COVID, about countries and their dance, and does a wonderful job with it. It's just so neat. But anyway, Joanna's in it, and Dick is in it, and I have a number of other folks that are in it. We are trying to keep each other motivated and inspired and creative during this time and beyond. So if you want to join that, that's a private closed group. If you want to join that, drop me a message on Facebook, and we've got a nice little group going. I just posted the first quote-unquote challenge for the year there. That challenge has 4 different aspects to it, 4 different things that you can choose from. Options, I guess, is a better word, that you can choose from. And if you're interested in knowing what that is, just drop me a message on Facebook, and I'll add you to the group. If you're a friend of mine, which you probably, if you're watching this, you probably are a friend of mine on Facebook, I can add you to the group. So I'm keeping the values still kind of low at this point. I haven't really added in a lighter value to the path yet. I don't want that area back here getting much lighter anyway, just because it's recessing over that little ridge line. We'll fix some more of that up when I get back there. Oh, Angela, you probably might be interested in that group as well. Hi, Judy. Okay, Judy, we're friends. I'll invite you to the Art Chat community. That's the name of the group. Like I said, it's private and it's closed, so you won't find it on any listings. But Judy, I will make myself a quick note to add you. It's funny because I just wrote the note real quick, and then I did ACC for the abbreviation for our Art Chat community. And I'm going to look at that later and go, ACC, Atlantic Coast Conference? What? So, sorry, that was a basketball player or basketball and football person in me. So, but yeah, so it's fun, and hoping that everyone finds it useful. So again, keeping my values dark here. I'm going to come back with the lighter values. I just want to get this hiking path laid in. Some of the gray that's coming through there I may leave. I may end up covering it with something, another interesting color choice. Yeah, I'm thinking something like this might be fun to add in, just to add some color and variety, just so that you see what I'm thinking in my mind. Sometimes that's dangerous. This is a really strenuous hike. I don't know if any of you have been around this area and have gone on this hike, but it's a lot of rock climbing, which I'm not used to. I remember being at a Kevin McPherson workshop back when I worked for Kevin in New Zealand, and my husband and I, on one of the days off, decided that we were going to go hiking in New Zealand, and it was gorgeous. We went down the Ben Lomond Trail, I think is what it was called, and you know, we thought it was what in our terms was a medium hike. No. I think we would have called it strenuous back here, but yeah, it had a lot of rock climbing too, and yeah, all uphill into the Remarkables is the mountain chain down there. It's also referred to, or they're also referred to as the Southern Alps, and gorgeous, gorgeous place. My husband wishes we were there right now because of the time change. I'm just putting in a little color here that I'm going to kind of mix on canvas just to give it some more interest. That's why I love palette knives. I'm just going to pick it up, move it around, scrape it. Yeah, so this hike over from Mount Mitchell to Mount Craig. So you drive up to the Mount Mitchell turnoff on the Blue Ridge Mountain. You can't do that right now, by the way, because all of the Blue Ridge Mountain at the higher elevations are now closed, and probably won't be open again until spring with the winter that we're starting to get here. Alrighty, it's starting to turn out the way I want it to. How's that for change every once in a while? It actually works. So I'm throwing this darker blue color in here because, or bluish purple color in here, because what I want to do is have some dark areas that I can build upon with other colors, sometimes in the same value range, sometimes not. That gives the feeling of plants and some void areas where you're looking into some of the darker areas, kind of like what I've got going on over here. And after a while, you kind of don't want to see the actual stalks or stems of the plants. So basically what I'm going to be doing is just kind of layering color upon color. And then we'll also put in some flowers. Yeah, at the beginning, Lynn, how you doing? I haven't seen you in a while. I haven't talked to you. In the beginning, I went through that, Lynn, but real quickly, just for those who may have joined late, on my palette are Michael Harding oil paints, which are the only thing I paint with. So I have Titanium White 2, Ultramarine Blue, Alizarin Crimson, Cadmium Yellow Light, Viridian, Terre Haute, Terre Verte, Terre Haute. I have friends that live there, sorry. Cobalt Teal, Venetian Red, French Yellow Ochre, and Burnt Umber. Okay, so when I put this up on YouTube, go out and look at like the first 5 minutes because I show you the colors that I mixed up on my palette and the colors, how I have them laid it out on my palette and how I kind of make sure that I'm using all of Michael's great pigment in each of the tubes that I've squirted out. So yeah, so that's where we are color-wise. Right now I'm just kind of playing with this particular color in the there we go, in the bush, or in the pine trees, the firs back here. Hi Kip! Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you in a while. You're welcome, Lynn. So yeah, so this is a mixture. It's kind of I started out with French Ultramarine Blue, threw in some Viridian and some Terre Verte, and then I think I threw in, just to gray it down a little bit, of the Venetian Red. If I have to mix this color up again, I think I'm going to be in trouble. But yeah, so what I'm doing right now is just letting some of the texture of the branches of these pine trees back here grab off of my palette knife some color, because I want some of that darker color to come through. And I don't want to cover all of it, and I just thought I wanted to see how that looked. I'm going to go back to this path here in a second. And I'm really, really trying to restrain myself from putting way too many really bright colors, you know, like the yellows that I really want to put in this path, like I did down here. I'm not going to do a lot of that, only because it was such a cloudy day and windy day when we were hiking here. So that's what my memory is telling me. Okay, so that's going to work back there the way I want it to work. These guys are going to work the way I want to work too. So as you can tell, I hadn't been back to this painting in a long time, so what's underneath is very, very dry. So I don't have to worry too much about the colors mixing together the way I like to do when I'm working with palette knives. So it's just here in the air, I'm putting some stock in, and then we'll come back. I got to mix up some greens for the front area. The green that I have mixed earlier with the cobalt teal and the cadmium yellow is too light. Any other questions? Feel free to ask. I'll have to send this video to top left. You talk about this area, Lynn? This like really gray area here, that was from before. This is really dry. This color that I was putting on, that's the lighter color on the right, was this mixture. Okay, yeah, so that was probably ultramarine blue and a touch of cadmium yellow and probably alizarin crimson, and then just, you know, really pushed down with a palette knife. It's very smooth, so that it captures the light differently on the canvas. Some of this, for me to actually, let's see if I turn this off, if I can paint with my backlights. No, maybe you're getting this light. I know there's a, whoops, thank God that didn't fall into the paints. There we go. So you could kind of see, let me use this guy a little bit more now. All right, that was my backlight that was doing that. So yeah, this comes very gray because I used red to gray it down. Okay, this part of the ultramarine blue and a touch of yellow and maybe very slight touch of alizarin crimson, that's more shiny. I just put that on and didn't worry about it. This lighter green here that you can see, there we go, you can see here, that is this mixture, which is ultramarine blue, viridian, terra vert, a touch of French ochre, I believe, and Venetian red, so that it isn't so chromic, so bright. And then what I'm doing is just running it over the rough parts of the tree, of the fir tree, in different places, just so it has that three-dimensionality type of look. The weird thing is that I need some light on my palette, so that's why I'm messing with the light back here, but I didn't realize it was getting so gray there. So, okay. There we go. Again, these are going to look like, when I'm done with laying all my colors in, just look like some stalks that are sticking up between all of the wildflowers and vines and cool stuff like that that grow up there. When we had hiked, the flowers were pretty much done in. The leaves on the branches and everything were all falling down. It was very, very pretty, and as much as I would love to say there were colors over here, it really just turned out blue because it was just so gray. The Blue Ridge does look blue. I mean, it's amazing the colors that you get and the atmosphere that you get from the Blue Ridge Mountains. Not necessarily, I mean, you certainly get the same in the Smokies, but the Blue Ridge are a little bit different than the Smokies. Don't believe me, come down and visit. Any other questions? So it's really just like a building process. I mean, you just build color in. I kind of have an idea in my mind where I want it to go, what I want it to do. If it comes out that way, it'll be kind of a miracle. So, I do have fun with it, that's for sure. Like I said, I'll have to mix up some greens here in a second. It won't take that long. I will show you something that I did once when I was out plein air painting. When it came to studying the greens out in a plein air painting day that I did on my back porch, because I really didn't feel like driving anywhere. So this was when I was back in Middletown. I'll have to do this again up here. Sorry, the buzzing you hear, my friend is texting me. I sent her some French broad chocolates for her birthday. She's vegan, or for Christmas, and they have vegan chocolates. And so I sent her some of those, and she's texting me now and telling me how great they are. So, making me hungry for chocolate. Nice little place down here called the French Broad Chocolate Factory. If you get down to Asheville, make sure you stop in. They have tours of their plant. They talk about how green, the company green they are. Sorry about that, guys. And then, so they work with farmers down in Nicaragua, Guatemala, India. Trying to think, they have bars from each one of the countries to get their chocolate and the beans, and how they work with all of these folks. Much better than the chocolate trade that, you know, the people that do the chocolate trading for Hershey and Nestle and all of that. I mean, when you go on this tour at the French Broad Chocolate Factory, you don't realize that it is very much as cutthroat and using child labor as the diamond industry is. It's really sad, actually. So I try to support the French Broad Chocolate Factory as much as I can. They're local. They're not a big plant. You can go online, the French Broad Chocolate Factory, if you want to get sustainable and green, if you will, chocolate. They do ship. They have a vegan line called Buddha, if you're vegan, or vegetarian, whichever. And I'm not just talking, oh, here's the chocolate. I mean, they have little bonbons that they make and everything. It's really good. They have dipping chocolates, chips where you can use them in chocolate chip cookies, or you can use them in to make hot chocolate or truffles. They have a bunch of different lovely recipes out there too that you can use. If you're in town, you can go to their lounge in downtown Asheville, and you probably have to stand in line because we're under some pretty strict restrictions here now. But because our hospital is not doing well with COVID, we're fighting that battle. So yeah, so if you go to the French Broad, you may have to stand in line, but believe me, it is well worth it. I'm going to step back here a second. Oh, I'm still liking it. I don't know, Angela, if you're still there, are you liking it still? So, she told me that she loves this painting earlier, so I was like, oh, no, I'm ruining it. Okay. Go. I'm going to mix up some blue or some greens here just real quick. And I'm going to use for kind of leaves and such. So I'm just using ultramarine blue. So that's the just pretty standard green that I'm mixing up here. We all learn to mix that up when we first start plein air painting. Especially if you're starting with a limited palette. Okay. I'm going to take some Viridian. I'm going to add a little yellow ochre to it. Oh yeah, I need to find that thing I told you I was going to show you. So that is the result of Viridian and yellow ochre, French yellow ochre together. So and I'm going to use some Terravert. I'm going to put a touch of the cobalt teal in it, and then just a touch of the French ochre. And that's the resulting color. But I want so many greens, right? So many greens. So this is what I referenced before, what I did one day out in my backyard when I lived in Middletown. I started with, actually this is upside down, we'll go this way. I just wanted to mix the colors I was seeing in front of me, and mixing colors when the sun's out and on a plein air setup, even with an umbrella, and then you've got light bouncing around everywhere and it's changing so quickly. I just wanted to stand there and look at colors and see how quickly I could mix up the colors that I've seen, that I saw. And then when I did that, I just put a swatch of it on this board. So it tells me all the different kind of greens that I saw outside when I was plein air painting. And the same here. And then I got away from the greens and all that, and went up into the kind of sky colors that I was seeing, and some other purples and things like that that were in the shadows, and the blue and the real dark greens. So this really pushed me to learn how to mix more than just the standard French ultramarine blue and cadmium yellow. So I really, really encourage anybody to just have fun mixing colors at some point. and don't worry about, oh, I have to get a painting done here. You don't have to get a painting done when you're going out plein air painting. You can just stand out there and mix the colors that you see, just to practice coloring and to expand your palette a bit. And public service announcement number 1. So now I'm just going to put in these greens, and I want to let some of the green that is in there already stay. And you notice I'm not sitting here going, well, there's a leaf, there's a leaf, there's a leaf. I'm not thinking leaves at all. I'm thinking more edges and values and pattern. So I switched to the lightest of the 3 colors that I just mixed up. I just wanted to put them there, see what it looks like with kind of breaking up that darker green that I got back there. Plus there was a little area there that has, that sets up, has more texture that I didn't knock down, so and because I'm letting some of the colors that were on this, on the canvas that is dry, like this color here, stay, it's going to give it some more 3D attributes. Every time I go back to put a color on on my palette knife, it's just kind of the same as if you have a color on your brush. I wipe it in my very dirty Viva paper towel to make sure that the blade's clean before I go back into that color. Again, there's a piece of texture here that's sticking out that I'm going to come back and put a lighter color on. You guys can't see at home, but I can see is there's this little area of gray here that was actually the value of this particular area, and I'm just kind of letting that stay there, just because sometimes having gray is a very neutral color for your eyes, and then everything kind of just seems to jump around that. So I want to keep that there. And the closer I get to the ground, the less light is getting to it, especially with the clouds. So again, this is like if we did that percentage thing, you know, you can paint a painting that's 75% light, 25% shadow, and then the same with, you can flip it so that it's 75% dark values, 25% light values. So with this being a cloudy, overcast day, I don't have a lot of really warm colors. You know, it warms up as it gets closer to you. But it won't be that warm. As a matter of fact, I have this really lovely, let me throw my dirty towel away. I have this really lovely green, which I'm going to put on just, and then I'm going to end up scraping it off because it's just too warm. But I love this. This is cobalt, teal, and a yellow. And if I put that on there, it's kind of reminiscent of a very, very sunny day. It's going to be too warm. I may be able to get away with it here and there, but at this point, I'm not 100% sure I am. So I'm probably add some to get that. Oh, okay. Well, I can move it a little bit. So, thanks, Angela. I don't know if that's going to get it or not, but I'm over there working on this side, so hopefully, let's see, let's move it a little bit this way. See if that works. So again, I'm just putting in some of this green color here. Again, this is that, I'll just hold this up so you can see how light and warm that is. Now it might work down here as it's getting closer, but it certainly isn't going to work back here. Nope, I don't know if it's going to work. Okay, thanks, Angela. I appreciate you posting that. And the one thing that I always have to tell myself too is that I don't want all of my strokes going the same way with my palette knife, which I tend to do. So you can see the area, the color that I'm covering is bigger. Again, not thinking leaves. See you later, Judy. I'll look for that invite. So thanks for dropping in. Yeah, so I want a little bit bigger area. Of the green to come through. Still want some of that light to poke through. So what else can I guess you heard me talking with Angela. Angela's a good friend of mine. She hosted a book event for me in her hometown a couple years ago. Hopefully anxiously awaiting book 5. So it's been a struggle. Did some research on book 5 the other day. Did some writing as well. Let's see. Hope to get that out this year. I'm not making any promises. But it's got a few twists and turns in it that I think some folks aren't going to be expecting or want to happen. So keep that. So Angela writes for, okay, I'm going to need help here, Angela. The Blue Ridge magazine, is that the name of the, she does some birding articles that are really interesting about the birds in our area. She lives on the other side of the mountains from me. She lives on the Tennessee side of the mountains. I live on the North Carolina side. And occasionally, I probably should do it more, but occasionally I do share her articles. I'm sure everybody would find them interesting when they come down. We have a bird feeder outside. There's some birds there that I've never seen back home in Ohio. Blue Ridge Country Magazine. Yes, there it is. So that's on Facebook. You can, not the whole magazine, but the links to the article are on Facebook. So they have a page at Blue Ridge Country Magazine. If you're friends with me, occasionally I share, like I said, I should more often, I share some of Angela's writing. Angela and I met a few years ago when we were in an author marketing conference where we were sitting in front of, before they actually had COVID, and we were sitting in front of our computers listening to people tell us how to sell and market our books. So, and another friend of mine by the name of Mel was also in that. A lot of the stuff I'm doing with my palette knife comes from, I mean, there's a confidence there. If you're serious, we can talk price, but yes, I appreciate that, but don't feel obligated. So, anyway, it is available. We'll put it that way. Yeah, so you got me so excited, Angela, I totally forgot my train of thought. So anyway, laying down the colors with a palette knife or a brush. What it comes down to basically is having confidence to just throw a color up there, make a mark, go move on, try to figure out. You know, you see I had some yellow in there. I didn't panic because I got it from the other side of my brush. But, it comes with the more paintings you do, the more confidence you get. But a lot of it has to do with, I know, thank you, sweetie, I appreciate you. A lot of it has to come with the understanding of values. You can mix colors that are so different in the same value, and then put it on a canvas, and if it's not within the value range that you have here, it will never look the same. It'll look wrong, and then you'll end up destroying the confidence that you're building up. One of the things that happened to me, I'd say started, hold on a second, I need to get some more ultramarine blue out, and never worry about squirting out more color. Or stopping and mixing the color up properly. We all tend to get rushed, but we need to really slow down and look at what we're doing. I mean, just those little pats, I'm looking through the phone now so that I can see what you're seeing. And yeah, I'm doing this with my phone, so sorry about that. But one of these days I'll get a really nice webcam. But just these little touches of light and these different areas of color that are coming through, the purples, the reddish purple, the different colors of greens, all of that is coming together through this lens of the camera and looking like it is the grasses that are up there. And then I'm going to come back and we'll highlight some yellows and some oranges and some reds in there for the flowers, the types of flowers that we typically see up there. And again, this is late fall, so there's not going to be a lot of that there. I'm more interested in getting this green, grassy field feeling to the painting than I am worrying about, oh, I need to put a yellow flower here. Okay? So I'm thinking more pattern and value and cool colors than I'm thinking, oh, I can't wait to put my yellow flowers down because, you know, it's going to look so pretty. Okay? I'm not thinking that at all. I'm thinking about not doing the yellows and all that. I'm just separate. I just want this to look very painterly. I want it to come across when you're standing back and looking at it as the stalks of these kind of, you know, and there's a crease there, so, but the stalks of what used to be wildflowers. And speaking of the devil, Kevin McPherson, welcome, former mentor. So, hope you and Wanda are doing well in Nushu. Assuming you're still down in Mexico, I'm not sure. Maybe you're up in the mountains now, but hello. So, anyway, so that's what I'm kind of going for. You always just want to make sure that confidence gets built from, at least for me, from knowing your values, understanding what you're doing in your painting, and making sure that when you're mixing colors to the value that you want to put in certain places. Oh, hopefully that made sense. If not, ask me some questions. So, and I was kidding about speaking of the devil, Kevin. I wasn't talking about you. And if you really don't want to see if I was, you're going to have to watch the whole YouTube video. So, hope you and Wanda are doing well. For those of you that are in Asheville that are watching this, keep an eye on the weather later this week, especially if you're going to go out plein air painting. We've got one heck of a storm that may be coming our way. So, we know that these Asheville folks, they're not used to, I'll put a little bit of red into this, they're not used to driving in the snow, so watch out. I personally don't plan on going anywhere. Maybe I'll log back in and we'll finish this painting together. So again, with my palette knife, I'm just putting on little areas of color that have white, which I don't want, which I'm not panicking about. I'm just going to scrape them off. That's what I love about palette knife. Okay, so Angela's asking, do I know what colors I'll be using at the start, and or do you make adjustments as you go? Yes. to both. So yeah, so when I was looking at this, again, the reason why this is dry behind it, except for where I just put my hand and smushed it. So let's fix that up a little bit. Is because I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. There we go. See, you don't need to panic when you do something stupid. The confidence will bring it back. So yeah, so when I started this one, there was this big gray area here, which was this area here. And that, if you're up on the trail, is a rock. And the more I thought about it, the more it bothered me that it was just going to be this really ugly rock thing, which I could throw in a number of colors and make it pretty, but that's not exactly what I wanted to do. So I sat on it for a while and decided that I wanted to put this path in, and I wanted to kind of direct the eye, meandering the path to Mount Mitchell. Seems kind of hokey, definitely artist license, and that's okay, because I want to make a pretty pleasant painting to look at, not somebody standing there going, I wonder what that's supposed to be down there in the corner. And why did she not just make a whole bunch of other wildflower stalks instead of having that big flat area? So I started thinking about where I wanted to direct the eye, and how I wanted to get the viewer to jump from here to back here and then up into the clouds, etc. So that's where, oh, that's good, I'm using my hand cleaner to clean my knife. But yeah, so then I started thinking about and started looking at all of the photographs, which I probably have over 1,000 now, easily, probably closer to 2,000, pictures of all the different mountain ranges that Tom and I have been around since we've been down here for a year, and all of the pictures. And so I started looking at those pictures, images on my computer, and looking at the colors. And then when I started looking at the colors, I started asking myself, is this a sunny day? Is this a winter day? Is it a spring day? Because the color of the mountain ranges, the Blue Ridge, the color of blue definitely changes. Can you guys still see? Yep, I'm going to move it over a little bit more. There we go. So when I'm out hiking, I'm doing a lot of study. I'm hiking along the ridge, I'm taking pictures, noting what time of day it is, which is usually in the flat light. Then, I've got mountain views out my treehouse studio. I've got places where I can walk here in my subdivision that allows me to see mountain views. So I'm constantly taking in the colors that are around me, the value, the time of day, where the sun is coming from and going to, what happens when a cloud casts a shadow on the mountain, what does it look like, so on and so forth. So from those I develop what colors I'm going to mix up on my palette, and then start painting. Now this lighter green that I've put on, which is still a dark green, evergreen, which was a mixture of Viridian and Terra Vert and a touch of Venetian red, that I knew I wanted it to be that dark, and I wanted it to be that color. So had this been too light in value, I would have made adjustments with my palette knives as I went. Does that make sense, Angela? So it's a little bit of both. It's a little bit of making adjustments while you're painting. Where is this white coming from? And then adjusting while you go, changing your mind on something as you're painting. I probably, other than showing you guys the reference on this, I haven't looked at that reference for weeks. I just kind of know, I thank Joe McGurl for this. He's been so helpful and supportive. Joe, you know, I kind of rely more on what I see around me when I'm out walking and hiking than I do my reference. Once I get it valued correctly on the canvas, then I just kind of go away from the reference and say, do I want it to be a light painting where I have a lot of sunlight? If I'm going to have a lot of clouds, I have to worry about the clouds and the cast shadows, and this was mostly clouds. It's been quite an adventure since we moved down here. The difference between Middletown and Asheville when it comes to color, you know, looking at color, looking at the way that sun and clouds and everything affects what you're painting. I enjoy just hiking and watching, you know, nature change. Watching the light change, watching the seasons change. So, sorry, I had to mix up some more color. Go back here and I'm trying to think out what else I can tell you about while I'm doing this. Is it different painting palette knife to brush, maybe? Yeah, that's an interesting conversation. I think George Gallo and I had that conversation some time ago. because basically everything I can do with palette knife, he can do with brush, and I'm sure a lot of the artists can do that. But I have this, I don't know, I have this block with brushes. I just can't, not sure what it is. I guess Simi Jackson and I had a big conversation about it too, and I don't know where we came out on it, but I have tried to challenge myself to use brushes. I do like Simi's and Rosemary's brushes, but I don't know. I just don't feel as comfortable with them. I don't feel as confident with them as I do with a palette knife. When I start brushing, I start using a brush, I start feeling like I have to do it a certain way. And it just causes too many barriers. Oh, okay. Well, I kind of went in there without even your prompt, Angela. Sorry. Yeah, Angela was asking about the palette knife. So I do not know what brand this is. I got these. I got these 20-some years ago, and I'm still using them. So there are a number of different shapes. There's one with the real long, which I may come back and use here shortly. This is the one I'm using right now. There's this one, which is even smaller. Yeah, great minds. Absolutely. That's why we're friends. So, and then a bigger one. This one I used, I don't know if any of you remember the Yosemite painting with El Capitan and then the lake in front of it. I used this to create the lake, which everybody says to me, oh no, you used brushes. No, I didn't. I used knives. That whole painting was done in knives. And then there's this one as well. And then I've got another pack, which I haven't gotten out yet. Let me show you. I actually did the smart thing and kept it in the pack because then I have the name of them. So, but the one that I have here, the ones that I use, which are my favorite, these guys, and you can tell I mean, they started to come off. I've used masking tape, all kind of stuff to keep them together. But these are the other set that I have with a few more different shapes to them. And I'm always constantly on the outlook for new palette knives, just because I love painting with them and seeing the effect that they can make. So anyway, yeah, so getting back to the reason why I use palette knife is I feel I can be a lot more free with my painting strokes and applying color. And again, that comes, you know, a lot of that came with me and Carolyn Anderson and Kevin and a number of folks that I interviewed on Art Chat, talking about value and color relationships and color harmony, and I mean that even includes George and like I said, a number of other folks that I interviewed on Art Chat. So with my brushes, or with my palette knives, I'm much more confident about just going in and blocking in a large amount of color. And then coming back and adding other color on top of it, getting some more texture. I can't seem to get the texture with a brush that I like with a palette knife. But I also, as I have said on many of my art chats, when you're painting with palette knife, you still have to understand edges, you still have to understand value, you still have to understand color relationship, and you still have to understand how an eye goes around a painting and how edges stop it, and so a very, very sharp edge will stop your eye. A very soft, muted edge will allow your eye to go into another area of the painting. A lot of edges can be caused by difference in value and color. So where you think you don't have a hard edge, you may have a hard edge because you have too dark a color. So yeah, I mean, a lot of it is just learning as you're going. I mean, all the stuff that I'm telling you I didn't understand as well as hopefully as well as I do now. But yeah, it's like I said, I have Carolyn Anderson and I have gone over I don't know how many times. Okay, so that's real gray up there. So let's hold on a second. Let me play with my lighting. Okay. It's a little dark, but I want you to be able to see that I'm going to be playing around with these guys up here. So that's actually too dark because now I can't see what I'm doing. That's a little better. Still can't see what I'm doing. I think there are times when I have too much light in my studio. That might be better. Nope, not better for me. Okay, hi Todd, long time no see. Still don't like the way that light's hitting it, so hold on. And that grays it out, but that's about what I'm going to need. You know what, I'll paint those later. I'll still paint and mess around with the bottom part. Okay. And I just dropped my knife. Okay, so yeah, that's a great example. Angela wrote, I love how the finger painting. So what I did was I mushed this together. Mushed, one of my favorite words. Did at the end of the trail, made that trail look like it goes on around the hill. And yeah, so before what was there was a very hard edge between this value and these values. And so what I did was I just used my finger to get rid of that edge. And now all of a sudden it feels like it kind of drops off or goes around the mountain or goes down or wherever. Flattens everything out. It doesn't stop your eye. Your eye just continues on. And that's why you get the feeling of that path is going around the hill. So this is another hard edge right here. And again, these are palette knives that I'm playing with, and palette knives have this, bad thing about them. They basically, now my light's all screwed up. So they basically create hard edges because that's, that's the nature of the beast. Okay, that hard edges are usually made with a palette. I mean, you can do them with a brush, no problem, but you can do them really easy with, or real easily with a palette knife. So you have to be very, very careful doing that, applying color so that you don't get a hard edge. And that's why I like working with, most time when I'm working with palette knives, I'm working wet into wet. So see, like if I do this, it's probably not close enough, but there's these little bumps of texture here that have hard edges all around them. And I don't want that to be that distracting of it. So kind of with pressure on the knife itself, I'm doing away with some areas and putting the color that I want there down. Like, you know, right here I created an edge between this purple color and the green color, and it's just very straight edge. Well, with it being wet, I can change that real quickly so that the eye doesn't stop there. And like I said, all of this stuff that I'm talking about is very much the same kind of things you have to look for when you're doing your brush work, because you can lay down a hard edge with your brush just as easily as you can, and believe me, I used to do it all the time, so with the brush. But like I said, I have some kind of mental block about going back to my brushes. Maybe it's because I just enjoy painting with palette knives so much. You know, a lot of times with palette knives you'll see people who enjoy and like having on, it's probably driving a number of folks who use palette knife nuts when they see my technique and my work and how I do this. But you know, some folks like having, even with brushes, like having that very textured, very thick paint. And I don't know, maybe it's because I'm a painter as well. I'm usually that really hurts my eyes to watch and go through a painting with all those hard edges, you know, because my eyes constantly stop and start, stop and start. And like I said, when I had hosted Carol and Anderson for a workshop in Middletown, we had a long discussion about my block with brushes. And one of her concerns, which I, you know, had the same concern, one of her concerns was that I would have too many she was saying I could never get as soft with a knife as I can with a brush. Hello, Ava. How are you? Good to see you tuning in, sweetie. It's my niece. So, anyway. So she challenged me to do this painting while everybody else was painting. They were painting models from life. And we had a number of people there, and they were all scooted in very close like they had to do. So I said, well, give me the Sorolla picture you have there, and I'll go back here and paint it. She goes, you can't paint that with knives. And I said, yeah, I can. So this was all with knives. And very textured and everything. And she just looked at me, made a couple faces, but never corrected anything I did. So it was funny watching her face, because she's like, okay, yeah, you can do that with the knife. I can see you can do that with the knife. So very fun, very much fun we had together with that, but in doing that. I'm mixing up a color that I ran out of, so it's the intermediate middle green of the three greens that I've been working with there. Yeah, Angela just asked, is there another video we can watch to see the beginning of this painting? On my YouTube channel, just search for Linda Fisler YouTube. There are two other videos. One where I block it in with the value, the grays, and then the one where I work back in the mountain and the sky area. Again, that's not a done area. I'll probably go back and touch that up some. Again, this is far from being done. And then this video will also be out on the YouTube video. Angela, I'm going to hire you as my agent. I'll wait for a smart aleck remark to come back now. So again, on just so folks, in case folks have tuned in that I haven't seen and haven't heard from the beginning of this, we have a new community, and Angela, I'm going to invite you as well. It's a private, closed group. I have to invite you into the group on Facebook. We have some rules. We always have rules. But basically, I formed this art chat community with Sherry Dawn Haas. Sherry is a writer, and she works for Streamline, and Eric Rhodes. And Sherry and I did some talking a little while ago with each other, and basically found that we were kind of struggling to stay creative during this time. You know, hearing about lockdowns again possibly, and you know, all of the stuff in the world that just kind of zaps your mind and energy. We decided that we wanted to create a sorry, Angela's texting me back. You're funny. I love you, girl. So, but yeah, so we were sitting there thinking, well, you know, it's just kind of like a crazy place out there right now, and really, really just hard to focus. And so we created this art chat community, and the community has prompts. And it's not just for artists, it's for writers. That's why I'm going to invite you, Angela, too. And, you know, it's the challenge that we did for January, which Sherry and I are going to talk about on the podcast on Friday. And I'm kind of I'm kind of playing with letting folks join the podcast, but be muted, you know, so you can watch us live, watch Sherry and I live talking about this. And in which case I'll have to send the link. But what I'll do is I'll just limit that to the art chat community, because I do have a Zoom thing where I can let 100 participants in, but I think it'll just get, I don't have an administrator, more or less, so Sherry and I are both the administrators for that talk. So, and we get to talking to one another, so it's really hard for us to kind of talk and moderate the folks that are just there to listen. So, yeah, so I'll put something out in the group. If you want to join us live, you're more than welcome to, but you'll be muted so that Sherry and I can follow the outline that we're pulling together and talking about in the group. But the community is, you know, it's to encourage us to continue in our creative places in life, and kind of an escape. So there's rules, you know, like no judgments and no politics, and you want to do politics, so you go out and do that on regular Facebook, because Lord knows there's enough room there. So, and I have my faults on sharing things too, so I thought a really safe environment for all of us to talk in and be able to just talk about creativity with no judgments and no harassments or critiques, if you want to call critiques in it. You know, if you want to critique, fine, ask for it, but for the most part, we're just going to talk about what we like about person's work. Joe McGurl's part of the group, Sherry's part of the group, a couple of the proteges that Kevin and I, when we had the Artists Menders Online going, a couple of the proteges are in the group, which was a group of people who studied under Kevin. So, if you want, like I said, that's a private group. If you want to join the group, you're going to have to send me an email, or not an email, a Facebook message, or let me know in an email message or whatever, and I will add you to the group. The challenge that we're doing for this month is basically Sherry and I are going to talk about our fears and how we branched out into doing other things, including writing. And she is going to become a yoga instructor sometime in January, I think, sometime this month, if it hasn't happened already. She's a fire eater. She used to fire dance, so there was a fear of, am I going to die when I put this fiery thing in my mouth? So she's going to talk about how she got over that. So this month it's about conquering our fears and reaching out. Next month I have Dick Atkins' wife, Joanna, who is a Broadway dancer. She was in South Pacific, and she was on a TV show called Isis. And like I said, she does these dancing programs with New York and New Jersey schools out there now. And I got in touch with Joanna and asked her to pull together some of her still photos of her dancing, and I want to use those as part of a challenge. Both writing, we'll create a writing prompt, and then there'll be a writing prompt from the dances, and then we can use see how light that is? I don't like that. So what I'm going to do is just use my knife and tone it down. But I did want to put a little bit of a highlight there. Sorry, I have to concentrate. I'll be right back. But we'll be using Joanna's paint or photos that she's going to supply me for painting. Think the Degas, only not ballerinas. Okay, this is good. We're going to have a writing prompt for what time is it? So we're going to have a writing prompt for the pictures. So if you want to write a story about Joanna and her, from a photo that she's going to supply us, you're more than welcome to do that. And we'll have something about movements, the studying movement, and different things like that that we'll put in there as well for folks to use as inspiration to kind of steer us on to do creative things. You can spend, and the reason why I say there's no judgment is you can spend a little bit of time on these, or you can spend a lot of time on them. Today, the one that I posted today basically challenges people to use art supplies that they haven't gotten, that they may have bought years ago, but haven't done anything with. Maybe it was because they didn't have time, maybe it's because they keep telling themselves they don't know how to use them, and there's a fear that's blocking that. So there's that part of the challenge. There's a writing prompt out there about, the writing prompt I thought was pretty cool. I'm going to have to try and write a short story on this. But you have an inheritance given to you by somebody you don't know, you've never met, but they arrive with the little message that says you get some amount of money, but you have to do this one thing that you absolutely fear to claim it. So the story is about you doing that one fearful thing to claim that money. So I think there's like 4 things that I wrote down in the group that you can see once you get out there. We're getting close to a couple hours here. So I'm going to throw some of this color on the pine bushes in the back. Oh, see my Tigger behind me. Painting a Tigger. It's amazing how light changes in my studio. when I just before we end, just before I close out, I'll take the phone off of the easel that it's sitting on, my camera, and move it around the painting so you can see the whole thing. I mixed up a lot of this evergreen green that I love, and I'll make sure that I don't waste it. Alrighty. So I'm going to make this branch just a little bit longer because these are all kind of ending in the same place and I don't want them to. There we go. Okay. Now, I'm going to add playing around with the color here, trying to see if I like where it takes me. So I'm just kind of throwing some of the burnt umber and some of the cad yellow and some of the ultramarine blue and the alizarin, making a kind of a mud color, but I want it to be a pretty mud color. And I slammed it with the alizarin, so I think that's going to do it. Hold on one second, and then we got a little white. Perfect. That's what I was looking for. I get a feeling of it being kind of a worn path. And then same over here. Alright, so I'm going to stop here and we'll pick up where we left off, because I think I've had you guys, if you guys have hung in for the whole 2 hours, bless you. Very sweet of you to do. Hope that you learned some stuff, and hope that you found what I do interesting. And let's see, Angela posted, I really enjoy this, would love to know when you are live next. We're going to talk about the new home for the painting. Will do, Angela, thank you. Yeah, so I'll put you in the group. So again, if you want to join the Art Chat community, send me a Facebook message or post on my page, or send me an email if you have that. And stepping back, that's the way the photo looks, or the painting looks right now. And next time we come together, I will, there's the evergreen trees over here, nice colors in there. So we will put in some blooms, not very many. I may have some courage and throw in some really pretty lighter color greens in certain spots. But basically, and then I'll work a little bit up here in the clouds a little bit more as well. But this is about done. So Angela, I'll probably write you a couple questions about the painting too, since you want this for your home. You know, if you want the flowers, if you don't want the flowers, things like that. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in. I'll go live again to finish up the painting if there is something I need to do, but I'm going to let it sit for a little bit, and it's amazing when you stand back what you see. I'm not sure. I think that was just kind of like some sky holes. Yeah. The way the light caught it, it looked a little more white, but I think it's okay. So yeah, so that is where we are. And like I said, I'll step back, I'll look at this a little bit. I'll probably add a few more touches here and there, and then we will we'll talk then. Also, probably we'll be starting a new painting soon, and I've been playing with watercolor markers, and I want to see if I can draw my Snickers little girl and use water markers with that. So I may end up filming that, even though it's watercolor markers and it's not my medium, but just to encourage people to reach out and just kind of have fun with some stuff. So anyway, thank you all for tuning in. So we were live from the Treehouse Studio, and I will talk to you guys later. I appreciate your support. Bye-bye.